We're going to segue to the work of our other Elizabeth, who I hope is going to be arriving. I told her we'd probably get to her by around 2:40. It's now 2:50, but we'll keep our eye on the door and hope that she's going to show up. She used 8 Bible women stories in her piece, Bible Women. I was originally thinking we would discuss these women chronologically in order of their appearance in history, but she emailed me that the order she had chosen for the cycle is, quote, part of its mystery, unquote. So I said, okay, we'll respect that order and start with the woman of valor, Eshes Chayil or Eshet Chayil, from Proverbs chapter 31. The earliest setting I found of that text, though I'm sure there are many others, was a 1970 cantata by Charles Feldman, who has also written quite a bit of Jewish musical theater, most in California. My friend and colleague Judith Zaymont, formerly of Great Neck, has written a beautiful 1977 tone poem with that title for mezzo-soprano and string quartet. And most interesting of all is a work by the only composer I know of who seems to have written about more biblical women even than Liz Swados or than I. And her name is Andrea Clearfield. She's a decade younger than we are and has made quite a name for herself as a composer, performer, and salon hostess in Philadelphia. Her oratorio, Women of Valor, dates from the year 2000 and includes, in chronological order, Sarah, Leah, Rachel, Yocheved, the mother of Moses, Miriam, sister of Moses, Hannah, not my Hannah, the mother of Samuel, I think, Yael, the precursor of Judith, Michal, Saul's daughter, who was punished for mocking her husband David when he danced naked, Ruth, and Esther. Neil Levin has written a very thoughtful essay about the Woman of Valor text in his liner notes to the Zaymont CD. Traditional English translations, including the ones used by Zaymont and by Liz Swados, many people find, quote, problematic, unquote. Levin cites the line, for her price is far above rubies, unquote, and states that it, quote, risks an objectionable comparison of a woman's worth with monetary considerations, unquote. Natalie Weinstein, in her 1995 San Francisco J Weekly review of Liz Swados' CD, called it deeply patriarchal and complained about mixed messages. So I was wondering whether, in fact, the words that Liz Swados uses, which concludes with on his earth, were meant ironically. In Hannah, I deliberately used the translation of Baruch haba b'shem Adonai as blessed be he that cometh in the name of the Lord, in order to emphasize the sexism in the tradition, and that was deliberately ironic. And for the production at Hebrew Union College, we actually translated those words back into the slightly more gender-neutral Hebrew. We're going to play the first track of Bible Women, but first, I want to tell you about my own recent personal confrontation with this Eshes Chayil text. At my mother's funeral, January 18th, Rabbi Josh Minkin proposed to read Psalm 23, to which we all said no, because my mother was not just unreligious, she was anti-religious. He proposed reading the Eshes Chayil passage, which I had actually quoted from in the Reconciliation Quartet of Hannah, Act 3, Scene 1. And he came up with a translation that somehow finessed all the objections and actually brought tears to my eyes and those of my father's when he read it. So today, in honor of my mother, I have asked Helene to sing not one, but 2 settings of that text. The first one I wrote last week, and Helene observed that it was rather sad and funereal, so on her request, I wrote a second, somewhat happier version as well. She's going to sing both of those versions, and then we'll hear Liz Swados' opening of Bible Women.